a wealth of knowledge. Please join me in welcoming Abhishek. And this session, there won't be any presentation. It will be a very interactive conversation. You can say like a fireside chat between Abhishek and I, and we will be discussing um, everything from digital transformation to AI to automation to policy framework and digital lending and multiple topics. So please stick around. And if you have any questions for the audience who is live with us right now, you can ask those questions directly and we'll be more than happy to answer them right away. And for the audience who's watching us, please do connect with Abhishek on LinkedIn and you can ask him the questions directly. So a very warm welcome to you, Abhishek. It's so nice to have you with us.
Thank you. Thanks again, Imran and Vinay. Great to connect with you and the larger audience, remotely. It's great to be part of this event. Just let me kind of, express my, my pleasure and my privilege because there's a lot of efforts gone to arrange this, and I wish you guys all the best for this and the upcoming events. So let's get started, great event, please.
Thank you so much for the good note there, Abhishek. So let's start with I want to it's good that you're here with us now, and I wanted to understand a bit more on your current profile in terms of your experience. And I know that your opinions that you're sharing with us today are your personal opinions and not something that is to be taken from the organizations that you associate with. So just want to highlight that to our audience. So everything that we both speak are our own opinions, individual opinions, and not to be taken as something that could be quoted from the companies that we associate with. Well, you can take that from me, but for Abhishek, that's his own expertise and his own experience that he's sharing with us today. So please help us understand your profile a bit more, Abhishek, so the audience knows where you're coming from.
Sure. Thanks, Imran. So before we start, disclaimer from my end. All opinions, views, statements from my perspective, not to be associated with any entity, any employer, any company, whether currently associated or previously associated, just my individual perspective. So a bit about myself, I'm very much born and brought up in India. And I've done my MBA from the US, lived there for about close to 6 years before I came back in 2009. I've been here for the last about close to 15 odd years. My trajectory has been across working with companies, like previously associated with IDFCs, HDFCs of the world, BillDesk, Capgemini, a small stint with TransUnion Civil. And it's given me a great wealth of, and plus Capgemini, one of the best Big Four companies to speak so. Now, that has kind of, given me a wealth of understanding, experience, and I'm learning every day on the trajectories of technology, the fintech, and the BFSI domains. And it's been a privilege to be part of this entire professional and personal journey. A lot of learnings, a lot of connections, a lot of, growth, personally and professionally. So that's probably where I come from. But personally, I love to kind of, keep up with the trends happening in the fintech space. That's been the larger focus for the past many years. And being an avid technologist, not a coder, but at least a technologist, so to speak, always interested in new trends and new releases as we kind of encounter down the road. So it's kind of a great journey, to be part of this historical moment in this world today, the 21st century. So over to you guys.
I think, Abhishek, we are lucky to be at the right place at the right time, where there's a big change happening around us. From where we have come in terms of 30, 40 years ago without internet and without telephone lines, and now everything is the world is literally very small and shrunken. With so many digital things happening, internet available across the world, even at Amazon Forest now. In terms of digital payment landscape, we all know how India has shaped or the overall digital payments landscape, and also is leading the global digital payments in terms of the policies or frameworks or even the overall ecosystem. What is your on digital payments as of now, and where do you see that in the next 4 or 5 years?
Great question, Imran. Thanks again for asking this. Now, where I see is, over the past at least a good decade, seeing the journey of digital payments growing, witnessing a lot of the innovations come on board. whether it is your regular mixed blend of offline payments, check payments to today's online payments, and the futuristic trajectories that could involve and evolve into the CBDCs of the world. So that's something where I see a lot of evolution happening. Being blessed in a way to witness the journeys from your closed loop wallets to your UPI QR initiatives and use cases to the launch of the very revolutionary BNPL and BBPS. In fact, these are some very, very cutting edge platforms that not just in domestically but internationally are being seen as the milestone and as the benchmark for payments innovation. And it's a great moment for India, a great moment for all Indians to be proud of this entire achievement that this country is doing for the last 10 years. What I see down the road is a lot of blending of not just the payment story, but also the data story, the big data story, because the wealth of big data being generated using transactions, just plain transactions, from one to another, that itself can, add a lot of insights to the larger demographical and individual buyer and spend trends. In fact, with the 1.45 billion, transaction throughput or population size, I feel there is a huge ecosystem just about waiting in place for the larger juicy pickings from a data story perspective. And in fact, not just the payment companies, but the AI, the account aggregators, the big data companies, TSPs, regulators have a lot of role to play in terms of creating new data trends on where we could be from a data specific standpoint. So let's see how it evolves. And plus, with the advent of blockchain and AI ML, which may seem like buzzwords today, but for the younger generation, the Gen Zs of the world, there will be a lot of use cases in the blockchain, which would be the part of the normal parlay, the normal language that they would be speaking on. So next 10 years, 20 years, we would see a lot of innovation that we cannot even imagine today, whether it's in AR, VR, whether it is something else, Web 3.0 or 5.0 that they talk about. Thanks to also innovations in the telecom space, telecommunications, with 6Gs and 7Gs that you talk about. That's fantastic. There's a lot of space to be explored.
Absolutely. I think rightly said, emerging technology, as everybody keeps talking about, and everybody talks about AI, ML, and everybody wants to be using that. But a lot of players still are testing it. A lot of banks, a lot of financial institutions still don't know how to use, where to use. For a layman, AI is as simple as asking your Google Assistant or your Siri for directions or for weather or tell me a joke, that kind of thing. But the real world application in the business environment in a banking and financial institution could be much wider and could also impact a lot of per se jobs or processes or in customer experience overall. So let's dig a bit deeper on the impact of emerging technology within the BFSI sector. If I have to ask you this, within a bank, how do you think AI will improve the customer experience, or it could, like in current scenario, maybe certain IVRs do not land up in the right way and don't get the right answer. So maybe the prompts are not right. I'm not sure what goes wrong, but what kind of positive pros and cons do you see when AI is being implemented in the banking sector?
So, great question, Imran. So let me kind of try and break up this particular statement in two parts. The first is the front end, the CI, UI, UX customer aspects, which is the behavioral trends. What I feel is AI, ML would really help sharpen a lot of the predictive buying trends for customers. So even before I want something, for example, if it's buying a movie ticket, let's say every Friday evening, using banking bots, banking chatbots, or even for the matter, payment assistance, so to speak, my movie ticket would be automatically booked and just waiting for my authentication for the latest movie releases. So AI would be so sentient that it would just pick up on my behavioral trends and my transactional trends, me as a customer, that hey, every Friday evening I go for a movie with my family. So they would just kind of arrange that and have those transactions and those arrangements just in place with a reminder, okay, hey, this movie's come about. It's a must watch for you because you like this particular genre of movies, and you could go for that. So that's something where I feel AI would really evolve much more in that. And not just that, but not the experience of talk about AR VR. While I've experienced that through thanks to Samsung, that brings a lot of depth towards your enriched entertainment, because that's where a lot of emerging tech is coming in space. And using metaverses, that would be an experiential way to do transactioning. That's like your whole 3Ds and 4Ds, the world. Buy
Yeah,
virtual stuff, virtual avatars. So let's
I
wait and
think
watch.
you we brought up metaverse. I think that's an interesting topic. Tokenization. I mean, that's something that's already happening. There was a time when we used to play games or maybe an arcade game. We used to earn stars and points, and now when real money gaming evolved, where the tokenization of the real money gaming happened with you exchanging your money for those coins or gold coins or silver coins or whatever tokenization format they're using. Regulatory jumped onto it and seeing the kind of exchange that's happening, specifically in India, I'm talking about. And they created a policy and framework and taxation just to make sure that they get the pie, part of that pie, and they make some chunk in the tax. So it, it, this leads to a question on the regulatory or the compliance side of it. With
Yeah.
the evolution of technology, uh, how does regulatory bodies or policymakers may assist or hamper the innovation in technology within the sector?
So I think talking specifically with the likes of an RBI of today,
Mhm.
they've come a long way. I commend them absolutely and completely, because they have their own dedicated RBIH, that's the Reserve Bank of India Innovation Hub. And the kind of work they are doing, or they are supposedly doing, and they are thought about doing, is really pathbreaking. Whether it is the likes of CBDCs and blockchains, they're doing. I'm sure they're doing so much work, which obviously we don't know at this juncture, because they don't go out of the world to advertise that. But their focus is not just addressing the tier one cities of India, but tier two, three, four, and solving real problems. That's what they're there for. RBI is not just about regulating your currencies and your financial, stipulations, but also ensuring that our financial throughputs and financial, wherewithals are available for the most lowest common denominator for this country. They're doing a commendable job, and that's where I see a lot of growth in this country, because our probably credit penetration is not more than I think not more than 2-3% is in this country, as far as for matter. If you look at credit card customer base is not more than 2-3 crores, whereas if we have a population of 1.45 billion. So there is a lot of scope for credit expansion. Let me put it that way. And
Correct.
using path-breaking tech, whether it is your CBDCs, and blend that with credit. There is specific use cases for segments like agriculture, rural. You got dairy farmers, you got migrant workers, you got even for the matter school students and college students. Obviously the plus 18 segment, I'm saying, with legal permissions. But there is a lot of depth to be explored as yet. We can't even claim any kind of credit or success at this juncture.
No, I think you brought another very interesting point about the tier two, tier three cities. That is where the next focus is not only within the banking finance, but also other industries who are trying to capture the knowledge, the expertise that are available in those cities. So this is a trend that I'm also seeing very closely in India, where the focus has been shifted to places like Jaipur, or even a place like Nagpur, where I've been seeing a lot of development happening, a lot of talent coming out of, and a lot of new technology and new founders with innovation coming out of the small towns and becoming multinationals, and some of them already unicorns. So with that, in terms of within the BFS sector, let's move on to a more a topic of which your expertise is there, which is payments, digital payments. Now, with the lending landscape in India right now, where microfinance and loans are available with just one click and just your mobile number and an OTP,
Yeah.
how does technology impact that and help individuals as well as corporates to get into that space?
So where I feel is, currently, while there is a fair amount of digitalization in the credit disbursement space, I think that's very well digitized to a certain extent, and it's noticeable. Companies, whether it is banks, mainstream NBFCs, fintechs in the lending space, or fintechs with NBFC appendages, need to focus very strongly and very clearly on a couple of things. The first being the collections piece, because that is your gateway for your financial and business viability. Keeping your NPAs to a nil in the most idealistic scenario, or probably just about manageable. That's the need of the hour. Second is getting more and more qualified and well-versed NTC segments, your new to credits into this space, because credit expansion is an absolute must. You can't just have focus on about, let's say if the country has about 1%, 1.5% of taxpayers, if your focus is just on that, then as a business, it may not be viable for you, because there are not just you, but there are 100 odd players who are working in the same segment through various mix and matches. So you need to expand your credit penetration and credit base to the rest of the 135, 138 crore, folks through various use cases. Second is a lot of focus is a must for banks and NBFC. This is my personal opinion on the regulatory space or the reg tech space. It's not just about your credit collections. That's one piece, but also getting your regulatory policies and hours in order using your tech stacks and being in line with what the regulator says. You have to follow. There's no other ways, and especially this is more applicable for fintechs, the young age startups, the young bucks who kind of try to break the trend at various levels. So they need to kind of be a bit more aligned towards the regulatory what the big boys and big daddies of the world say. And third is obviously from a big data perspective, which is the big data story. And I'm a very strong proponent of the big data being a commoditable, component where it can be monetized for further growth for fiduciaries, for tech companies, for FMCGs, for e-commerce companies. Data story is huge in this country, and people need to focus on that. Not just about making the money through your CASAs, but also through the data stories. That's very important. That's something my individual opinion is what I'm geared towards sharing instruction.
Thank you so much for highlighting that. Now, if you have to look at from a global perspective, now India has taken our UPI payment framework and technology to outside India as well. Like for example, if I have to travel to France, I can still make payments in France using my QR code, my Google Pay. So that is only possible because of the cross-border payments that has been facilitated. Where do you see this going? I mean, right now, as Indians, when we travel out, we do the payment. Will they be able to do the same? Maybe when you're saying in Paris and somebody wants to send you the money, they can do it right then and there immediately. Is that a possibility? It's just a question. It's a thought. It's something to think about. I'm sure it is, but how soon?
I think let me answer the question in a couple of bullet points. The first, obviously, being the inward remittances that we need to focus on. So we are doing a great job. By the way, I think we have annually about $75 billion as an annual remittance in this country through various routes or the various, the various traffic routes, I would call that. That's one thing that needs a lot of digitization, making it easier, cheaper, and faster for people living abroad to send the money back to their loved ones as economically as possible. Second is obviously for outstream travelers, people visiting abroad, going abroad forever, etc. There's a very strong need to have further penetration of your digital segments from India. So whether we have a bank account in HDFC Bank or an ICICI Bank, but I, as a card holder, as a UPI proponent, should be able to transact that and much more across the world as much as possible and as easy as possible and as cheap as possible. That will help break a lot of the informal money mules that we have today. There's a word for that, which I will prefer not using on the forum. Next is the future growth segment from a geographic perspective is Africa. And over 1.2 billion market just waiting to be tapped, man. That's just waiting to be kind of positively explored. And I have immense respect for Africa as a country and as a people, because the first really path-breaking payments innovation was the M-Pesa wallet in Kenya. This is about 8-10 years ago. That was an inspiration for a lot of the low-cost countries, the low-income countries, not just in the African belt. But also at that time, India was just getting into the whole digital space for companies like Vodafone to explore and come up with their own Vodafone M-Pesa wallet, which was a trigger for your Paytms and Airtel wallets to start the journey. I think that was a very, very good moment for the world. And thanks to Africa, that one piece was popularized. Indian companies have and could look at and must look at Africa as your next stepping stone for your business and bottom line expansion. It's a must for it. I mean, India as a market, while we keep focusing domestically, it's a need to diversify and de-risk your credit base. So abroad, that's something. And after Africa, probably next 20, 30 years, parallelly we could also look at the Latin American market, South America. That's about another 600 million, 800 million customer base waiting to be tapped. So that's probably where I'm seeing the future. And I'm not even talking about Southeast Asia. So that's a heavily explored market. It's a heavily penetrated market by their own local players. Vietnam, fantastic work. Singapore, fantastic work. You got the likes of Hong Kong and all those countries are doing very good work in digital space. So westward ho is where we could look at for India.
I think you rightly mentioned about these emerging regions, especially Africa, is poised to become the next big place. I should not be using the word diamond, but for Africa, but I think that's where it is, the diamond in the rough, where everybody is looking at it and making sure they get the fair share in that market. So it's a huge potential to be tapped. And as Indians, I think if I look back at the history of South Africa and India, even before India's independence, Mahatma Gandhi was there, and he's still a well-known figure within some parts of the Africa, and a lot of Indians are settled there for many years now. So there is a big diaspora in that part of the world where we our festivals, our knowledge, our education system, our culture is being respected, and I think it's very close to us in terms of our overall thinking, way of doing business, and also the way of living. So it's quite related. I think it's a place that Indians should expand. Indian organizations should expand, and also not only us. I'm sure there's lots happening from Europe side as well. Recently, I was talking to an oil and gas company who's expanding in Africa, and they've always been doing it, but there's a lot of investment that's happening, which is giving a lot of buying power in Africa with not only just mining, but other industries as well, which are growing faster than ever. And then banking is one of them. Banking and finance is one of the industry which is, I think, within the next 5 years, you'll see a huge potential that could be tapped from that region. What the other question that I would like to ask you, maybe let's take it like a discussion. I mean, we spoke about a little bit of tech and emerging technology and AI and automation and how it is helping us. I was recently reading an article just a couple of days ago. The chief technology officer of OpenAI, her name is Meera Murati. She mentioned that very soon ChatGPT will possess PhD level intelligence for specific tasks. Now this got stuck in my head. Like right now you can say it's our AI or ChatGPT is like a 5-year-old, 7-year-old, still growing. But it could be next 6 months they could the AI tools could achieve PhD level, where we take about 8-10 years to do a thesis and get a degree. AI could do it next 6 months or 1 year. What is your thoughts on that?
So I feel, let me talk a little more respectfully and humorously. First of all, for the non-PhD holders, that's kind of a warning light. Let me put it that way. Now, the point is, while we talk about AI, ML, there's a need for a sentient, sentient character in that particular technology. It's very important because otherwise, beyond that, it's just a piece of code. The way the AI ML evolves, it's a wait and watch situation. Let's see how it evolves. But most importantly is to answer what is the ROI behind the AI investments that I as a company would do. When I invest $10 billion, what am I getting out of it in terms of ROI? That's that's a question. A lot of people, a lot of the biggest, minds are still thinking. Oh, I'm sure they're looking at answers, but there's no clear defining answer model that they are coming up with. So that's something needs to be clarified for the rest of the world. Plus, there's a need to regulate AI. I feel why there is a need. Well, because every new invention can be used and misused. To prevent the misuse of AI by bad elements, it's important to regulate that, make it a bit more structured, make it a bit more fenced around what you cannot do with AI. That would, solve a lot of problems in the world, whether it is global hunger, whether it is, the illegal, whatever the money transactions, black money that you talk about. You talk about data insecurity. You talk about, fraud transactions. A lot of things can be solved using AI, but there's a need to also control the AI within certain norms and norms and limits. Else, it will become like a Frankenstein's monster. That's my that's not just a movie fear, but also probably a realistic fear. In fact, people like Bill Gates also have that kind of a fear. Bill Gates, or whether late Mr. Steve Jobs, I'm sure they would have had their own concerns around AI. So
I think you've said it right, and this is every technology has the positive side and negative side, and can be used. It's a double-edged sword, which needs to be carefully monitored and see how we can control it. I think that's one of the reasons that EU has created an EU AI Act, which was finalized and passed on March 13th this year. So this approval was done. This shows that though we say, yeah, it's making our life easier, AI is is the future, everything is right, everything is fine, but it could also, if we are not able to control it at one point of time, it could take over, and we may not have. What if it becomes sentient and we may not have control over it? Who is there to unplug it again, right? So
absolutely, just looking at a Terminator, you never know.
you never know. Exactly. I mean, see, we all think about the positive sides, but most of us want to see the benefits of it. Just like in every country, region, or place, or location, or industry, or whatever you want to call it, there are always thinkers who are a little towards the negative side. What if one of them is a tech guru and wants to see the effects of AI in a much more damaging way? I don't know. Time will tell if that's
I'm
that
sure.
becomes.
I'm sure you've heard of, or rather been a witness to these Marvel movies. So there is the movie called as Avengers: Age of Ultron, where Ultron is
Yes.
the negative version of the AI, and you obviously have good old Mr. Tony Stark, Iron Man. So that's
Yeah.
always good and bad. So it's going to happen.
There's another movie on Netflix. I know I'm not promoting that, but I
Yeah.
happened to watch it recently. It was very specifically on AI and
Okay.
how it was impacting. And I had a conversation with one of my past speakers on that. The movie is called Atlas. It's on
Yeah.
Netflix. And that's an interesting movie on AI, and how a very good take on how it can impact our life in the future. That's absolutely possible. When I was looking at it, I was like, okay, this is something which we can see in our life. It's not too far. It is
Yeah.
absolutely doable. So having said that, I think we've just come to a conclusion of our conversation. It is an interesting conversation I'm having with you. I don't want to end it, but we have one more session left, and I want to give our audience a more chance to interact with you when they see this video live after this. And please, everybody, I request you to connect with him. He has so much knowledge which just cannot be shared in such a short span of time. Please connect with Abhishek on LinkedIn. Send him a message. He will be more than happy to respond. If you have any question for us, please shoot that to us directly, and we'll be more than happy to answer that. So Abhishek, thank you so much for your time today, and it was a pleasure talking to you again. I know we did the similar conversation recently.
Thank you so much. And just FI, I'm not an expert. I'm just a student like everyone else. Always happy to learn from the rest of the world. So let's have the opportunity to learn from each other. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Abhishek. Have a great day ahead. Take care. Bye bye.